welcome. My name's Sam and this is A Little Greenhouse Creates. Thank you for joining me today and welcome to our final card for this week's stamp set of the week, Heirloom Boutique. So for those of you that may have saw my scrapbooking kit workshop back in May, I did the Heirloom Boutique workshop kit then, and this is a stamp set and the dies that run alongside the actual kit, but I decided because the kit was so perfect for the photographs that I already had, then that was how I was going to do it, but I wanted to use the stamp set and the dies as a separate. So here is this week's. So there was a video on Monday and a video on on Wednesday, if you'd like to go back and have a look at those. Otherwise, thank you for joining me today for our Funky Fold Friday. So again, we're going to be using the Heirloom Boutique stamps, and I'm also bringing in the dies. So I've turned it inside out so you can actually see all these gorgeous dies. There are so many of them. And excuse me. So this one, and this one, cut out the images from here. But the closed in images, so this one here, that one, and those are all added extras that you can use. Right, so let's bring in the card so you can see what we're going to create. Now, I've called this the half circle fold card for the reason is that half the circle folds. So it is a funky fold. So let's bring in our supplies and we can get on with creating the card. So what I've got is a piece of peaceable pine. Now this measures 8 inches by 5 3/4, and we will score that in a moment ourselves. I am using today Designer Series paper. Now this is the Velvet Meadow, and it's like a phlox. I don't know if you can see it, but it's all velvety. It is gorgeous. It is the most beautiful paper, and it's such a shame sometimes to actually use the other sides, but they are as nice as the front. So we've got 2 pieces of Designer Series paper, both measuring 1 3/4 by 5 1/2. Excuse me. I haven't decided on which side I'm going to use, whether it's this side or this side. Again, there is that flock effect here on with the flowers. And this is 3 3/4 by 5 1/2. And then a piece of white, which is 3 inches by 4 3/4. Oh, excuse me. So there are a few added extras that we need. So let's go with the dies that come in the set. So I am using the large flower, cutting 2 of those out, and I've cut one in Berry Burst, and I've got one in Pretty in Pink. I've used my leaf, and I've cut 2 of those out in the Peaceful Pine. And I don't know where they've gone. I'm sure I had some dots. I wonder where they've gone. Okay, I will have to find those. But you can cut them out in 2s, and I did them in both colours. One in the Melon Membo. No, it's not. It's Berry Burst. And one in the Pretty Pink. Okay, that's those. Let's pop those aside for a second. Then I'm bringing in the Spotlight on Nature. So I'm using these 3 from Spotlight on Nature. Okay. So the largest one I've done in the Peaceful Pine. There's 1 of those. The next size down, I have 2 in Cloud Cover. And then the next sides down, which is this one, I have done in white. Okay, so I think that is all of the pieces that we need. So I was just having a see if the colour had appeared on my little dots, but they haven't. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, whereas I normally do the stamping, is we're going to do the scoring. So I'm going to bring in my trimmer, and we're going to score it at 2 inches. So let's make sure we've got our scorer. So that's 2 inches, and then we're going to score it at 4 inches. Okay. Right, so we're going to fold the 4-inch score in half like we would do if it was a normal card, and then we're going to bring the 2-inch back on ourselves, and then we're going to burnish those with our bone folder. So that's that one, and then fold it in half and we can burnish that one. Right, so the next thing to do is to have our card open. So this is normally the front, but what we're going to do is we're going to open it up as if it's the inside, and then our 2 pieces of designer series paper will fit side by side with only separation of the 2-inch score line, and they will be stuck down. And I'm going to glue those down with, actually I'm going to glue this one down with my Stampin' Seal. Oh dear, definitely got a frog in the throat this morning. There we go. Or it could be I've just eaten a peanut, or no, an almond actually. It's probably not the best thing to do when you're just about to start with the camera. Okay, that's the one, and then let's do this one. Oops. There we go. And there is our second piece, making sure it is lined up. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we're going to fold this in half, and we're going to take the larger of the 3 Spotlight on Nature dies, and we are going to pop those onto there. I'm going to hold it down with a piece of washi tape. Let's just run my hand over that. I'm going to cut it in 2 halves. So I'm going to make sure I'm happy with where it is, and there's an equal spacing here and here, and then I'm just going to hold it down with my washi tape. I'm going to put it on my board. Oh dear, I've got 2 seconds. There we go. Right, so I'm going to put it on my board. So this is made up of 1 block, and then that, and then our piece of Perspex. We're going to lay it flat like that. We're going to bring in our second piece of Perspex, and we are actually going to lay it only along this line here, because we only want this side of the circle to cut. This side of the circle needs to stay in place. Okay, so what you do is you take your card or your plastic, pop it over your cutting plate, pop it over, and we're going to run it through the cut and emboss machine. So bear with me for a second. Okay, so once you've run it through, take your bit off. You can remove your washi tape, very careful. There we go. Like so, and a tiny bit there. Okay, and we can move that gently. There we are. So now you can see that the flock has moved over, and we now have this circle. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to poke through some of these holes with my, my pointy tool. Let's get rid of those. I'm just going to try and point them through. They should go all the way through because we have cut the piece out. So, but it's because we're cutting through 2 layers that we need to make sure that this is okay. The point. No, those aren't going to come through. So if you're worried about it, I would suggest that you point it through a couple of times. I'm not really that bothered, because they will be covered up on the other side in a moment. So there we go. Right, so what we now need to do is we're going to put glue on this section, on the flap that hasn't got the circle. We're going to put glue. There we go. And we're going to fold it over and hold it down. Okay, so that is now in place. So our card looks like that. So this is why we have the green circle, because that is going to sit on there like that. Okay. And it's going to match up with the circle on the outside. There we are. Okay, and to do that, we just need to add some glue. So I'm only going to put the glue in the middle because obviously I don't want it coming through the holes that are there. Okay, making sure that that lines up with your piece that you've already got. Okay, so there we are. That's, you can just simply slide it up. There we go. Okay. Perfect. So the next thing to do is to add our grey, which will go in the section like that. So again, just put that on to there. And we'll put that one through. There we go. Come on, thank you. Right, I'm going to pop that onto there like so. Okay, then we're going to turn it over and we're going to do exactly the same on this one. We're going to take this and that's going to sit in the middle of the flock here. So again, we're going to use the glue. Okay. We're actually going to use the stamping last today, so we'll come back to that. So that is our sentiment or our card so far. So the choice now is to whether to use it with the flowers showing, because you're going to have your flower probably something like that. Or do I do it with the other side, which is the grey? It's going to have a white piece in the middle. So that might make a difference. Let's have a look. Do you know what? I think I prefer it with the pink. So we're going to stick that down. Right, so let's just put the glue on the back here. There we go. There we go. Make sure it's all nicely put down. That just gives that another piece of colour. Let's make sure that is stuck down properly, which it is. Then we're going to do this, which is the white piece, which is the 3 by 4 3/4. Right, and I'm going to pop that as central as I can. Actually, I should have, never mind. I was going to say I should have stamped on that before I glued it down. Actually, I'm going to do it. I don't want to make a mistake. If I make a mistake, I could be in trouble. Right, okay, so I'm going to bring in my flower, my Peaceful Pine, and then I'm going to stamp in the top right hand corner and the bottom right hand corner. There we go. Carefully pick that up, because I know I've glued it down because the glue was there. Right, let's make sure the glue is still there. It's going to add a tiny bit in the middle. There we go. Just to make sure it sticks. Bring in the card. Oh my goodness, look. How on earth did I do that? Right, that's going to go in the bin and we're going to get another piece. Let's see if this is the right piece. It's too big. Okay, so let's cut this down. Can't believe I smudged it. Okay, so this is going to be... Oh, guess what? I'm going to need coffee after this one. And that's 3 by 4 3/4. It was a good job I didn't stick it down, wasn't it? Otherwise, the disaster would have been worse. Right, let's take two. Right, we're going to stamp our flower, top and bottom of the right hand side. Make sure there's no ink on my hand. So there's one there, and then there's one there. There we go. You make yourself a beautiful card, and then all of a sudden ink is all over your fingers. Right, so let's pop it down there where there is no ink. I'm going to bring in my, there we go. That's better. Right, that is going to sit in the middle like that. This then gives somebody area to write. Okay, and the flowers are in the corners. Perfect. So the only thing we need to do on the front of the card now is to add our flower. So I'm going to try and decide whether I want my dark pink on top or underneath. Right, let's bring in the leaves. They're going to sit, one's going to sit there, and one's going to sit there, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue those down first. So let's take that over, the glue, that'll sit on there. I'm going to do exactly the same on this one. Glue down, put it there. Then we're going to arrange our flower like that. Okay, so we're going to put a bit of glue here. And then we're just going to position that, hold that in place. And then I'm going to put a dimensional on the bottom. There are a couple of dimensionals on the bottom. In fact, they're probably going to be 3. So 2, 3. Okay, pick those out. Turn that over. Oh my goodness, it's going to be one of those days today. Well, that can come off with a glue rubber, so I'm not going to stress. Not going to stress. There we go. So we're going to put that there. That's stuck down with my dimensional. Right, let's get a tiny bit more out of the way. We're going to stamp with the Let's Celebrate. Again, this is from the Simply Said stamp set. I checked this morning before making the video. This is still in stock. It is in the last chance section. It is a really good stamp set and worth grabbing hold of if you haven't already got it. Put the sentiment down. Perfect. Right, let's roll that up. Did I put that one on dimensionals? I did. Okay, so let's do that. So again, this is going to be with dimensionals. I'm going to put it under, excuse me, I'm going to put it under this section here because I'm going to put a piece of bling there. But I will use the dimensionals. So there's going to be 3 of those. One in the middle. Oh, hello. One to the right. Everything's sticking to me today, isn't it? I'm under the left. There you go. And that will sit. Make sure we're happy with the situation. Yep. So that will sit there. Then we've got our white piece to go in the middle. And I'm using the Best Wishes. Again, it's from the Simply Said stamp set. Let's put that over there so it doesn't get destroyed. Bring in my Peaceful Pine again. And we'll stamp up the birthday wishes. Pop down. There we Yeah, birthday wishes. Beautiful. Perfect. And then we can put the glue on the center of this. Obviously making sure they don't come through the holes. And that will sit in the center just like that. Lovely. So just to add a bit of bling, I have got my antique pearls. And we're going to take one of the large antique pearls and we're going to pop that in the middle there. Then we're going to go for the next size down. We're going to put one there and then again one down here. And that, even with all the hiccups on the way, we have managed to create today's Funky Fold Friday card. So there we go. Thank you ever so much for joining me this week. I hope you like the cards and the stamp set. It's obviously one that I will be keeping in my stash so that if I'm doing any more scrapbooking, it's available. So thank you ever so much for joining me, as I said. But do join me next week when I've got something slightly different. So catch me on Monday. Take care. Bye.